Good morning, wild ones. Today, I'm a little nervous because we're getting ready to leave on an epic adventure. But before that, I need to teach 5 art classes in the next 5-6 days. So I'm going to show you what I'm headed towards, but I'm using a different method. So this is a journal I created in 2020. I actually did about 15-20 of them and gave them to all of my friends because we were all struggling, obviously. And what I love to do is recycle pretty much anything I can. And I had a friend say, I'm getting rid of all of my my manila folders for my business. We're going paperless. You want them? Of course. Yeah, I'll take some. And she brought me a good chunk of them. So this is 1/2 of a manila folder. And I love seeing kind of what it used to be. I used spray paint on the outside and then ink on the inside with some hand-carved stamps. This one has been used for a few years, so there's a lot more glued into this one. I was also learning how to eco-print then. I don't know if you were like I was, but I picked up so many new art hobbies while in our home season. And it has a lot of my favorite laces and little bits hanging out. I love the look of this piece. So this one is mainly mixed media. I actually do a lot of actual journaling in it. It's kind of where I keep my wheel of life. Like I talk about my beloved body, my wild craft, my hopeful spirit, glorious brain, grounded feelings, wholehearted circle of people, and our loving home. So all things that I spend a lot of time thinking about, a lot of time writing goals for, and this is kind of where my goals get set. Affirmations go in here. It's my journal that drives me forward. This is a journal I just started about a month ago. This is a different spine. So with this journal, I sewed in the center. Can you see this? The sewn bits. So I just did it like a normal one signature, because it's very small, journal. This one's kind of a one signature journal, but it's all glued in. So each page is a full page. And a lovely thing to do with a glued in spine is adding single things that you can't really add to a journal easily if you're doing a signature spine, unless you glue it in kind of, very similar to this, you'd have to glue it in. But with this sewn signature, this wouldn't be as connected. I really like the look of this, and I love the feel of it. I took it out yesterday on a little adventure. I went with my mom to see our annual miracle, the salmon coming back into our rivers after being in the ocean. They think upwards of 5 million salmon come up into Western Washington every fall. And it's if you've never seen it in person, it is just, there's something deeply heartrending about it. And my mom and I love to go see the salmon. So we try to get together at least once a year and go on an adventure to see the salmon. I think she also goes with my dad. I also go with my son, so we see him a lot. This is an artist, Thomas, am I gonna know his last name? Thomas Berdoddle. Who has just put a bunch of trolls, like big art troll installations here in Western Washington. So we also stopped by and saw him. And I spent some time sketching and took a lot a lot of photos for people at the Troll because he's newly installed. But this is what we're going to work on today, is gluing in with deli papers, with found papers, with recycled papers, gluing in a spine so that we can create our art on the go. I wanted to show you one thing. Oh, here. So here's where to make this page fit in this size journal, I had to tear off this edge, and I reused that torn edge. So it kind of keeps your desk cleaner. And if you use all your little bits in these edges, I really like the idea of it being a place to take the desk ephemera and just sweep it into your journal. So we're headed here. This project requires, well, it doesn't require, but this is how I'm gonna attack it, is some deli paper that has some fun textures on it, some recycled, this is from my last, I ordered something from naturallife.com, and this was the paper that the receipt was on, and I just liked the color, and I was like recycling stuff. This was a piece of ephemera collage, and I'm kind of not sure where it came from, but it was from the collage book, or from my collage stash. And then I just tore up last night some different sizes and shapes of watercolor paper that I got from Amazon. It's the Amazon Basic Watercolor Pack. I mainly work in either watercolor or pen and ink in my travel journals, and sometimes I work with ephemera and acrylics and things I bought. So I thought this would be an interesting one to glue in. So pretty much I'm gonna glue all these spines in so that the center sheet will be the big spread, and everything else will be kind of smaller spreads. And what I love about that is when you can see all of them on top of each other, especially when you see the different colors coming through. So I've already done this was a leftover one. I think I made a bunch of covers and then figured out how many books I actually needed. So this is a leftover cover, and I'm planning on gluing the spine in right here. And probably would be smart to go grab a couple clips. Okay, got some clips, and I'm also going to use some of this ruled craft paper that's actually a sticker. I thought that might be an easier way to kind of get the initial layout rather than the glue. So I'm gonna grab the front half, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, and I'm gonna arrange it thinking of both up and down. This is my full length. This is as far out as I want to go, and I'm thinking up, down, and side to side, knowing everything needs to align with this back edge, because that's where I'm gluing to. So I'm going to use a binder clip to clip, make sure it's an even clipping, that you got your thumb there, that you can hold this band evenly. It doesn't have to be super duper secure, because to tell you the truth, I would not be super upset if this didn't glue in perfectly the right way. It's kind of meant to be just a little bit loose and free. But I have clips, why not use them? I'm gonna kind of cobble together, but I think, yeah, I've got all 4 now. But I'm gonna get this top corner, because this is the corner that's a little bit loose, and this has only got 1 clip to it. Now every juncture has 2 clips, and at least for this initial glue, or this initial set in, I know I can be pretty straight and even. Now, I've done it where I've put the whole book in right at first, or gone around the whole edge and then worked through the middle. I think I'm gonna do half and half and have the next 4, which are all a little bit bigger than the first 4. I think I'm just gonna get all of this put together too, why not? And this I'm doing the opposite, because this is my biggest piece. I'm turning it over and I'm aligning the back side so that I get some good peekaboos with the back view, because you also do this view a lot. I will put a pocket right here to house the treasures. I think the best way to attack this is to glue it in. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, got it. We are going to take a pretty significant piece of this tape, and I've obviously used part of it before, and yes, I just totally abandoned the non-sticky part, and I'm just going for it. I'm gonna align this and try to hit, well, maybe I could hit every piece. I'm gonna try to hit every piece, and I'm just setting it on the edge here. So I'm not bending it back, I'm just trying to catch the top. And I'm not really gonna be able to catch the top of that. But if I grab this extra tiny little piece, I could get these 2 set together. So that's 1, 2. I'm not gonna get this very back one, and that's okay. Mainly, this is gonna align those front 2 and get this edge set. So I'm bending it back over and holding it. You can kind of see where I'm holding it. And because, okay, I think this is the stickier side. I'm just gonna, I'm not sure I want that much. I'm just gonna bend it back on top of itself. So it kind of gets our book where we want it. I don't really want this much of that texture because I'm gonna add to it. I could use this as my center, like hook these 2 together. Actually, why don't we do that? Because that gives us a little bit more stability throughout the book. I'm aligning here to here, spacing it out. And this is like our super temporary, definitely not very sticky hold. Now we've got the whole book semi-attached. We're gonna throw, this is art glitter glue. I love the tip of this glue, and I'm at the end. I kind of like to work in glue seasons, so I have like 4 bottles of glue in my life, and I empty them all before I refill them. So this is my last bottle of glue. That's why I'm using art glitter glue. I also could use golden acrylic gel medium, golden soft gel, anything that's gonna stick. Even an Elmer's would work here. I wouldn't necessarily want to use that if I was going to be watercoloring quite a bit, because I think Elmer's, if you get it on the top surface, can dry very, very yellow. I'm going to let that stick up. I have a little bit more on my fingers, so I'm just going to kind of hit the binding. I also grabbed a little piece of this tape, and I'm going to be prepped to put in a little chunk on the back side. And this time I might not abandon the non-stick stuff. I kind of got it settled, and now I'm putting the non-stick paper back over the top just in case it gets in the wet glue. And I want to make sure I grab the whole binding. Now I'm going to peel that non-stick off and kind of squish it in. I just want to make sure I see the two blue lines on either side. And this is what's nice about using a pre-colored piece. You really can see it. So this is just kind of to get it set. I might shut the whole book and really squish it down. And now I'm going to work to get all of the pages installed and firmly installed. I don't consider this sticker paper at all my final binding, and obviously it's not working real well. It must not like this paper because it keeps pulling off of that paper. So I don't even know if I need it, but I'll leave this piece in because I do like the look of it, but it obviously isn't working as desired with this Amazon paper. First time I tried it. So now I'm going to go into my deli paper, super thin. It's what you wrap a sandwich with. This has a tiny bit of spray paint texture on it. I'm going to go in with generous but pretty thin amount of glue, and then just use my finger. I am a hand and tactile artist. I like to get messy. Try to keep one hand clean-ish. And I'm just gonna go in, and at this point I'm really only wanting to hit that very front piece. I still want to be able to see the blue. Now I'm gonna unclip it. Everything is not drying very fast today, so I'm gonna do that. And we're gonna get another piece, just the craft paper. I like to get to the edges, and then for this one, because I have so many doors, it's like doors, drawers. It's like Encanto over here. I'm going to want to just bind this piece to the edge of this one, and then take a second piece and do this edge to this piece, because when I open different pages, I'm gonna have to be able to see it. So let's see where we're at. Actually, this might help us a lot if we use this kind of spacing to help just hold the pieces in. And if I get everything tacked in like this, I'm winning. I'm winning today. Ha. So I need a lot of kind of little pieces like that. I'm gonna take this piece off too and just add, if a sticker isn't working, add some glue to it. It will work if you glue it. So I'm gonna align this with just the front flap right here on the edge. Make sure I try not to get glue on the surface of this paper because it will no longer love watercolor if I don't make that pretty no mistake-ish. So let's get this piece glued in, and I'm just getting this other edge. Just getting all of our edges really glued down, but we can come back and look at that. Now I'm going to flip this whole piece over and get these two attached, similar to here. I'm gonna get this one attached to this piece. I'll do with that little guy. And that one, let me add a little bit of this paper to the bottom part. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of put a crease in it. Actually, let's flip that around. There we go. Okay, now this one and this one. And we're just gonna walk our way through this whole piece this way. Things with text are pretty fun. We'll come back and fill in all the gaps. I like to have the whole edge bound. I just find then there's no little parts that are places that are weak. But for now, I want to just get this edge, like every corner, pretty much hooked down. And you could do it as small as this little itty bitty bitty piece. Just kind of do a bridge. Now we have this sticker that's not 100% working, but we could make it work with glue. If you're one of those artists that kind of struggles with the blank page, I find these edges that are already pre-decorated help your brain not read it as a blank page. It's like already a start. And especially when I'm headed off on an epic adventure, which is coming soon, I will probably try to do some videos of that. I'm headed to Colorado next week to help a friend get married. Well, help a friend by just showing up and being there. Get married. I love having a little book that's kind of already got some pretty in it for my art journal to take with me. Okay, I got the tedious part finished. My kiddo came down for some breakfast, and I needed to give him a minute to talk to me. But I got all kind of glued in a little bit, just tacked in. And at the end, I just made sure I got my hand on every piece and really squished it back in there and made sure I really, that it was in between that fold, so this would close nicely again. I like to take and do a reinforced grommet here. This is just a little bit of, what is that? Oh, as a card catalog card. My friend's school library was getting rid of their card catalog, and she grabbed a bunch of cards for me. So this is card catalog paper that I put a stamp on, and then I put a reinforced grommet in, and I'll add a ribbon and usually some sort of dongle to kind of shove in there. I just find it's a size that I really want to use. It fits in my purse a lot of the time. I don't mind seeing the bones of what this used to be. Actually, that same friend gave me a bunch of her, she was working for a company who was editing out their paper file system, so they had hundreds of these manila folders, and I said, you bring me a handful. She brought me quite a few, and I'm finding a way to use them. The nice part is teaching this class, I'll be able to get a lot of them used up. I always like that kind of opportunity. I can see back in here that this piece has, oh, it's just a little, it was just a little piece. I was like, that's a piece that's come off completely. I don't know where it is. And the glue that I put in the spine earlier just really didn't work at all because the stickers weren't working. If I wanted to, I could very carefully shove some glue back in there, but I think once I get all these edges really sealed in, like this one's complete, I would consider that a really strong edge. This one needs a little bit on this corner. This one obviously will have a little break in the middle, but I'll put a little bit more on each side just to double check. And it doesn't have to happen right now. This is enough, maybe one right here, yeah, to start it, to start the journaling process. And who's to say I don't take ephemera from our trip and use that in the edges too. I love collecting national park stamps in here. I love if we have a funny place we eat, like when we were on the Olympic Peninsula and we went to the Rainforest Cafe. That was not like the one that's really intense, but it was like in the Ho National Rainforest. It was Ho National Rainforest Cafe. I took and pulled out their little thing and put it in as an edging. It's a nice place to put your ephemera that is a memory to you, but maybe not like highlight, like you want to put it fully on a piece of paper. It's a nice little place you could put it. But yeah, this piece I want to add a little bit more to. I intentionally chose a really limited palette because I wanted to have the artwork that is going to probably be a lot of pen and ink and watercolor landscapes, really to have their day and not be competing too much. And for me, this is neutral. I'm just saying I'm not the most neutral person in the world. Obviously, this is not as neutral. But every so often I try. If I had more of this gray paper, that would have been really good, but alas, no. And I'm really liking the brown texture with the text. I think that spot's good now. I'm gonna say that spot's good. And I did reinforce every one of these with glue. Nope, that's not needed. I bring a glue, oh yeah, this spot for sure. And it looks like it's trying to scooch out of the blue, so I'm just gonna pick it up, tore just a little bit so it was really glued down, and make sure my edge one has quite a bit of glue because it's gonna work against that opening and closing all the time. And this piece, I got the top of this over the edge a little bit. You could leave it just out, or you could just tuck it around. Sometimes a little clip. These are from my sewing basket, but I really like, different than a binder clip where it just hits that kind of right in the center. This one has just a tiny bit more surface area, and this flat part of the pin, I find when you're gluing something teeny tiny down like that, if that holds it for a few minutes, it will just set down really, really nicely. Yeah, let's use a little bit of this. Start and end with the deep brown, and then I think I'll put some text into the bottom part of this too. Okay. That might not have been seen, I'm just realizing, sorry about that. That one's in, so we've got 3 pieces, and I like to have the whole of the back side covered. This ear is totally speaking to me. So I'm gonna glue it up. And for the front and the back, I definitely add more glue than the center ones, just to make sure it's extra, extra secured. And I'm thinking about the pocket that's gonna be here, and seeing this out over the top of the pocket will be so fun. And then it needs a little tiny bit of color. I always think everything needs a little tiny bit of color. I love how all these ripped edges, when they sit on top of each other, this one's cut obviously, but the rest of them I really, really like that ripped edge. And if I wanted to get a ripped edge in here, I probably wouldn't come in with the brown again. Actually, let's just do it. I'd come in with a different piece of paper and just build out the edge part with that ripped texture. I really like how that looks. And part of the reason I chose this magenta-y color is because I had one piece of paper in my stash that had both the magenta and the turquoise, and that's what mainly the spray paint out here is with gray. These probably came from the same spray paint session. If you want to see that process, please let me know in the comments. It's really fun. And because I know I like the ripped texture, I'm just ripping off that finished edge. I'm going to add a little bit of this printed paper, which was I think it was a scrapbook paper because it has the kind of squares on the back. But it looks kind of like a vintage napkin. I don't use a ton of scrapbook paper or printed papers that aren't mine. in my work, but I don't mind using them in books like this because I very rarely would take and try to sell a piece out of this. This is mainly for me to grab ideas and really remember the trip. I love looking back through these. They're like my heart sings when I see how many places we've adventured and how much life we've lived. And when I'm desperate for ideas in my work, I find paging back through an art journal on a trip really puts me back in that place, but also mentally puts me in such a place of belief again in myself. A little extra glue here, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more interest. This is what I end up doing a lot to these edges, is just building them up over time with little bits and starts. I like to consider it like trash cleanup on my desk. If there's pieces on my desk that are just hanging out at the end, especially these little guys, I might be tempted to just sweep them into the garbage, but adding just the tiniest touch of them into things really is beautiful. And the longer I go in art, the more I'm trying to use the whole like tip to tail, like use every bit of my art supply so that I'm not adding to the crisis that we're all in the world as much. I definitely am a maximalist when it comes to my artwork. I love to add layer upon layer upon layer, and the more layers the better. It seems like this little piece, this is all white on white, so adding a little bit to that is great. Yeah, it's just a fun way. And if you don't like the parts where you have these breaks, you don't like the look of this being a blank spot where one piece is coming over, you can add in texture on either side of the break so that, I'm gonna change that around, so that your visual eye doesn't see the hole. So you've got this whole side covered. Now we're gonna flip all the way over and cover here, just to, if you really don't wanna see it, use the same tone of paper. And I even will like lift it up a little bit if I can and slide it under. This time it is not gonna work because of how this piece is glued in, but you can kind of bend it to your will and have it be a little diagonal. But now when I open this piece, I don't see this gap as much as I did before. And I just realized I have like a huge, part of the reason this book is being a little weird is I really need to connect this piece to this piece, and that's why there's a huge gap there. We'll get there. Let's do it. Okay. I'm gonna start with deli, which is 90% of my practice, I think, is start with the deli. And with the deli. I love deli paper. You can find it at Cash and Carry. Costco used to carry it, but it really is like a delicatessen paper. It's what you wrap a sandwich in. And I don't want to go to the top of this one. I want to go to the top of this one. So I'm pulling it over. Now I have a huge gap. How I accomplish a tight fit is to bend it over and like pull it together and get those two pieces of paper meeting, because this is such a long piece of paper, I'm gonna lose some of this top flap, but that's okay. And I might just spend a minute letting that glue dry and really holding it tight. And looking underneath to make sure there isn't any like bubble underneath of deli paper, because then it will, it'll just fall back out, but there isn't. And if I don't allow this to dry nicely, it'll just, the paper will lift, and then you can always take a pin. I always have a pin in the top of my glue bottle and poke a little hole in the top paper and shove some glue in there and get it to sit back down nicely. I think I will take a binder clip and binder clip this shut. I might end up with some paper loss from the surgery I'm doing. But I just I'm gonna quickly double check all the other sides to make sure, like right here, I could use another one. And that's it. I think, yeah, I think I could do, I think I'll wait to do that until this one dries, just because of ease. Wild ones, I hope this was helpful. I hope this gets you started on a glued in binder. It's just not as hard as it seems at first, and just keep adding to it. If you want to know like kind of what these papers are, deli paper, Yahtzee paper. This is a piece of cardstock, and because this is a single, I didn't start it right on the edge here. I used this flap to glue this piece to this piece, this dot piece, and then I just shifted this single piece over and then glued these two together so that it's not quite in the center. All of these, no, this one's pretty centered. Yeah, maybe that's the only one. Haha, the rest are centered. I tend to like to add the flap out a little bit. I probably couldn't center the rest because they're too long, and this one was shorter. So adding that extra little bit makes your book really stable, but also gives you time. This is a great way to carry some binding material with you. If you have a postcard you love from your trip, add it to your book and actually glue it in. It just allows for such beauty in the end. And I will definitely make sure I bring you along as I'm working on filling this one up and as I go on my trip. And I will definitely be putting postcards and different things in this one. What I love about the bound edge is I can kind of let it flip out, like with that binder clip in there, it's still able to close. Like, that's a good book for me. And that's why there aren't too many pages, because I want to be able to fill it up with extra stuff. So by the end, it might not be the same page count it is right now, which is fun. Let's take a look at the final product before we head out on the trip. So I added a binder clip that has a little extra room for a pen. I haven't done the ribbon closure yet. It's coming. So I do have a couple of things I shoved in there. Okay, so you can see the paper holding it open, and then you can push it open. And I do like these because they'll stay open and kind of where you put them. I always carry a few binder clips with me. When I'm on my trip, just to get something seated in place, especially if I'm going to be if there's any wind. Here's the next page. My puppies are playing in the background. That's kind of a fun one. This is the tape that I reinforced with glue, and this will probably get added. Actually, I think it's already going to get added to. This is my friend's wedding invitation, and so it's going to go in there, and I'm just going to glue it in with the same sort of binder that I've done in the rest. This is just really thick paper. I am confused. So this is the center spread. We are planning on going to 2 national parks. So I assume one of those national parks will get the glory. This is Dobby. Dobby the puppy. Hey, Dobby. Hey, Dobby. A bubba. A bubba. He's a 100-pound St. Berdoddle, St. Bernard poodle mix, and he is just the hilariousness of our family. Such a big boy, and he thinks he's a lap dog. Not right now, bud. There's that spread, and then this page open. There's that spread. One more, and last one. Last spread. And then this is where I was saying I was going to have a pocket, but I kind of just binder clipped in a couple things. Let me show you what I did. So this is an envelope that I have not decorated on one side, but have done that same spray paint texture through on the other side. I have a few things in my ephemera that I went through and just kind of looked for that might work. This is a piece of Yes canvas, and I've never used it. It's supposed to work for watercolor, so I'm just bringing a separate folded sheet to try out. I have a couple of Montana stickers from the last time we were in Montana and we're headed to Yellowstone, so I thought those, and I haven't used them, so I thought putting those in this book might be really fun. I also have just the bits and bobs left over from the book binding day, or the book gluing in day. I have a copy of a watercolor I did a few years ago with a quote from T.S. Eliot: "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." And I'm excited to see if that makes it in. If not, it's just really good. I like to keep some reminders of the work I've done before. I also have just a few more copies of former paintings. I also threw in these, I've been kind of feeling like stickers lately, which is kind of strange for me. This is a Jan Davenport for American Craft journal tape strips. So these are kind of like washi tape, but in sticker form. And I guess I should put them that way. I might use some of these. I just sometimes just like to have a little bit of backup texture. We'll see. I think I bought these and never have used them, which always makes me think I need to use these to use a little bit of it. And for ephemera on the trip, I have a separate little, just a piece of cardstock folded, I don't know if that's easy to see, folded into a Ziploc bag, because we're going to be traveling quite a bit. I'm not sure if this envelope will hold up to going in and out and just the rigors of the road. Take the binder clip and clip it through the back part, but leave this part open so that as we build ephemera during the trip, I find I don't do a lot of gluing or I do a lot of sketching when I'm out and about, but I just don't do a lot of the kind of journal making portions. But when we're back at the hotel or Airbnb, that's where I do my work. So I just like to have it really as easy on myself organization-wise as possible. I'm doing most of the driving for this trip. So I know my energy levels are going to be pretty low. But I also know myself that I tend to get up earlier than the rest of the family. And I just love, this is life-giving for me. This journaling is just where I'm at. So this is what it all clipped in looks like. So I can easily just tuck stuff in to there. And I do like the surprise ear. It makes me laugh really hard. And this probably won't remain here for the whole life of the book. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope that you enjoyed this project, and I hope you go out and make some of your own. If you do, please tag me. And thank you so much.